Welcome, and today we're going to have a little look at some star forts around the world, a beautiful building in Iowa, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the valves and drains that I spoke of in my video titled Valves and Drains on my other channel. And that dealt with this old map by Mercator along with the legends of the North Pole. And we are told that there was a giant black magnetic rock in the center of these four land masses, and that the waters drained at this point. And where did they drain? And these rivers moved inwards, at least two of them did, and two of them moved outwards. Not sure exactly. And in my video I was talking about floods, and we featured the floods in Venice, and also receding of ocean levels for days at a time. And when I saw such receding of waters, I couldn't help but think, where did the waters go? Lasting at least a couple moon cycles, no reason why the tides should not have returned. And I do suggest you watch that video if you're interested. But today we're not going to focus on the drain. We're going to focus on the source. And again, perhaps it's here. And of course I don't know. And when it comes to all of these subjects I speak of, I can only share my thoughts. I will never say that I know, only that I don't know. And I have no shame in asking questions. And really that's what we're going to do. And the last person to have visited this North Pole on the record is this Admiral Byrd. And he both visited the North and South Pole and gave us amazing accounts of what he saw. And he gave several interviews and talk of plans to return. And then in 1958, all exploration to the North and South Pole was halted. And all the nations signed a treaty agreeing to Antarctica being off limits. And why would they care? If it is what they tell us it is, just a chunk of ice. This alone piques suspicion. Very similar to a spot in the Grand Canyon that is off limits. Now why would there be such a thing in a national park? And the off-limit areas are very intriguing. In the case of the off-limit area in the Grand Canyon, we're told of stories in the early 1900s that there were Egyptian artifacts found. So we have this story, and then we have a no-fly and no-access zone in present time. So very interesting. But before we get too deep, I just want to show you this Iowa State Capitol. And this was shared with me in a comment. Thank you. Very fascinating in the heartland of America. And this is actually said to be the only 5-domed capitol in the nation. And the building was said to have been constructed between 1871 and 1886. And in 1904 there was a fire, and finally in 1965 the dome was re-gilded, and in 1983 they began restorations in a 9-phase sequence. Phase 9 began in the spring of '98, and the whole project was completed in 2001 at a cost of $41 million. So just the restoration of this building, 1983 to 2001, taking much longer to restore than to even build, but nevertheless, an incredible building. And I'm really amazed that this is the first time that I'm seeing this. And I'm really not in the mood to tear apart the narrative. I only wanted to share and appreciate it, seeming to have very short windows on the bottom, and some of the most remarkable domes to be found anywhere. I would like to get a closer look at this Antiquitech up here, just pretty remarkable. And here we have a little better look. Just beautiful. And very over the top. And clearly architecture with purpose. Absolutely beautiful in Des Moines, Iowa. Built with horse, wagon, and no cranes. So here I wanted to just show this catalog of star forts that Colm Gibney has made. And this is available on his website. I'll leave the link. And thank you, Colm. Excellent work. And I think this is what we need a lot more of. Similar catalogs put together that can be imported into Google Earth on all these subjects that we talk about. And here I just wanted to start out with probably the most unlikely place I would expect to find a star fort, here in the New Mexico desert. And let's just have a little look at it real quick. And there we go. And you can see down here the coordinates if you'd like to check it out yourself. And really amazing. I mean, this one is in poor condition, very poor condition. And what seems like a buried structure. I mean, very clearly a buried structure, a star fort as found everywhere, along water, always seeming to be near water. And really amazing that this thing would not completely just be covered up, that we're even seeing a bit of it. And I'm sure these were everywhere, as they are, and varying levels of exposure. Let's just have a little peek at one here in Illinois, Metropolis, Illinois. And this one is right on a river. And let's just see. So here it looks like we have a twin pair of star forts. And again, I mean, these things seem to come from a much older time. And here we can see they've built some junky little buildings on top of them. And really amazing. And what is the purpose of these star forts? And again, when I made that last video, Valves and Drains, on my other channel, it really got me to consider that these star forts may be serving a greater purpose and may actually be perhaps some kinds of valves for allowing the flow of water. And what we can see here in San Francisco, on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, we see a marker for a star fort, and let's have a little look. And not seeming like your average star fort, but yet exhibiting these same types of features. And is this thing just completely buried? Now they tell us that this is the bunker, above the bunker at the Golden Gate Bridge. So even according to the story, this is a bunker or a fort. And really, even in this particular instance, looking like some kind of a drainage or a spillway. And what caught my attention with this one was these ports, or plugs. And perhaps these are like a pressure valve. And I've noticed these on many, many star forts, that they'll usually have one or two of these. And you can see a couple of them right here. And here just across the bay at the spot, we have another marker for a fort across the bridge. And here again we can see these same types of holes on the top, or plugs. And just to give you a little idea of actually how massive this old fort is, there we go. Just a beauty. And these little slit windows under the bridge. And here in Fort Jackson, Louisiana, and we can see the plug here in the center. And Pensacola Beach, Florida, on this artificial sandbar. And this one is in pretty rough shape, almost unrecognizable. And here we can see the plug holes, 1 and 2, in the fort. And here we are in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama. And how fascinating, amazing that this was even found. This thing just out in the middle of nothingness, and really fascinating. Really, really amazing. And we'll just pin that. And here's one in Havana, Cuba. And we can see the plug hole. And very grid-like, very advanced Cuban layout. And another fort, a little bit less star seeming, but also very technological, in ruins. And a bunch over here, real beautiful and completely artificially built out into the water. Another one right here. This is just fascinating, and this might be one of the advantages to Cuba having political differences with the rest of the gang. And look at this, I mean, the preservation that we're seeing here. And we may be seeing a few different eras here, but this amazing tower, very well preserved. And this is really amazing. I mean, here they've made this, super highway here, the Via Monumental. And yeah, this super highway, and watch where it goes. It goes right through and underneath the water, and probably connects over here somewhere, but I'm not seeing it, but it's pretty safe to say that it does. So just amazing. This is a fascinating area here, and way too advanced for Cuba. Way, way, way too advanced. And perhaps this is the reason for the political differences. Perhaps it's all staged just to keep people out of Cuba. And recently I think they did just barely open to, I'm not sure if to tourism or just importing certain goods, but pretty mind-blowing. And it would be nice to get some boots on the ground here. What is going on? I mean, here I was talking about some kind of valves and drains and portholes, and this may just be the mother of ports, and being repurposed into a highway, just a convenient tunnel. And let's see what we have over here, not far. Another mine blower in great shape and not buried. Probably seeing more exposure than we do in many of them, and just a lot of fascinating remains, things that would have long been turned into parks, and of course they probably are called parks, even here in Cuba. And this may be the exit to that tunnel, as we see people coming in and out here. Just fascinating, and really seeming like another purpose, part of the machine. And just to give you another little idea, let's go to the Vatican Cathedral. And here in Vatican City, of course, we have St. Mark's Basilica, and right here, just to the east of it, on the river, a beautiful star fort. The fort itself actually remaining, where in many instances, like what we were just looking at in the New Mexico desert, we were just simply seeing the imprint. Very little left. And this may seem insignificant to you. I mean, most people are going to be visiting the St. Mark's Cathedral here, which already is anomalous in its own right. Just looking as machine-like as could be. Clearly there were 4 domes around this central one, and they've removed 2 of them. But this star fort, just to the east, just absolutely fascinating and underrated. And I think what we're seeing here is much more of what may have belonged to many of these star forts. And let's just have a little peek here. Let's just drop the little man on the road. And there you go. So here's what we're dealing with. I mean, today we're just really talking about the star forts themselves, but just this building. I mean, what is the story with this building? Just incredible. And if we look this way, we should be able to see St. Mark's. And again, potentially pressure valves or release points for the flow of water. And this one has been removed and concreted over. I'm not sure. Just exploring. Of course I don't know. But I do know that the story is not what we're told. And here what we can often see is around a star fort we'll have like another point. And let's just go back to this little star fort in New York. And here again a very damaged star fort, almost unrecognizable. But this one having some buildings. And notice this hole right here. And I've just marked it. Very interesting. Within the star fort. And let's see what else. This is in New Hampshire. And here is an interesting area. Now the star fort itself being almost unrecognizable in this particular case, but we still do see some old structures remaining. So very interesting. Clearly going underground and very damaged. And this looking like just a fascinating area to explore. I'm not sure if someone has purchased this area and is putting a house up. But I would really love to explore this. And what are we seeing? Again, holes off to the side. And if you had a pipe or some kind of valve, you would want to protect it. And something circular would be susceptible to damage. But something star-shaped would be your ultimate defense for whatever it is you were trying to protect. It could take much more of a beating. And even a lot of these water towers that we've looked at, again, seeming ridiculous in one way, to even call them water towers, especially when they look like castles. But what if it did have some kind of role? And here's a water tower. And what can be said about a water tower like this? Absolutely amazing, and not seeming like a water tower at all. And perhaps it was repurposed into a water tower, utilizing the elevation, and not sure what the construction is. The resolution is not so good. Almost looking like brick, I'm not sure. But the massiveness of this tower, and here let's just have a little look at these people at the bottom here. The St. Louis Waterworks. So there we go. St. Louis thought building a massive Greek-style column would be the best way to move water around in this time period, in this very muddy street time period. Really a fascinating picture. This is the first time I've seen it. And, you know, if you're going to build some water tower like this, surely you could put some pavement of some sort on the ground, and really everything just looking much older. And look at this tech up here. Really interesting. Not seeming like any kind of tech that I've seen. And these little slit windows, very similar to the towers of Bologna, where we have very small slit windows, this being a more modern version. And here again, the little tech light. So perhaps that's it. These were lights. I don't know. It looks a little bit different, but also very similar. And just astonishing. And let's just imagine. Now here they're telling us, of course, the column being a support. But if that was the case, and this was not originally just a water tower, but rather the support for a building, then how massive would the building have been? What if this was the last standing column to this building? And just really amazing. So I think that's it for today. I'll leave the link below to this website, Colm Gibney's website, and check out his YouTube channel as well. I originally made a 30-minute video and it didn't save, so I'm going to just try to keep this second segment short. But I do thank you so much for joining me today, and do have a blessed day. Please like, comment. I just have to show you this one too real quick. I mean, this thing is just mind-blowing. Talk about not only building the island, but then building a small star fort within a bay on an artificial island. Just mind-blowing. And subscribe.